Welcome to Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Our guests are insiders, now on the outside and the right side, dropping truth and nuclear intel bombs and breaking it down just for you. And now it's time to meet your hosts and co-hosts. Your hosts of Beyond the Box are Brenda Lankart and Suzanne Hott. Brenda Lankart is host of Beyond the Box and retired law enforcement. Joined by Suzanne Hott, host of Beyond the Box, Joel's Indoor Arena and Event Center, and White Horse Productions. They are joined by co-hosts Tom Althouse, Tommy Edwards, Brian Sang, and Penny L.A. Shepard. Tom Althouse, co-host Beyond the Box, is the real author of The Matrix, The Immortals, and The Matrix Redeemed. Tommy Edwards, co-host Beyond the Box, Virginia Tech football star, recording artist, and mental health advocate. Brian Sang, co-host Beyond the Box, Full Disclosure Now movement, fulldisclosuremovement.org. And Penny L.A. Shepard, executive producer and co-host of David Zublick's Awake Nation, The Dark Outpost, Patriot's Perspective, and Beyond the Box.
Break it down.
This show is for entertainment purposes only. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Beyond the Box begins now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Beyond the Box. Today is, what is it? It's June 21st. 2024 still. Talk on it. Hello, Norma, Denise, Susie. How's your day?
Busy doing working on a little cabin that we're putting up cedar. So
Yeah, I seen that. Looks nice.
yeah, we stayed up late last night and then had the show on the Awake Nation, and then I had a show on the Dark Outpost after that. So it's been a long day today, but I'm here.
Right? I seen it. Too bad I can't climb up the stairs and go look at it myself. Well, I could. It'd take me a
Well, it's
little while.
two-story. There's two rooms, so one below and one upstairs. It's got 2 rooms of cedar. So
One
pretty cool,
as above as below.
right?
I've had a interesting week. So, would you like to start us off and make this a safe place? I think right now we all kind of need it.
Right. Because today when I was on the show, I was talking about a lot of the pastors and all the homosexuality that's running these big mega churches, these pastors, and how corrupt everything is. And it was quite a conversation. And I think that's what CJ is going to be on, and we're going to be discussing some of the stuff that's going on, not just in politics in Hollywood, but also in these mega churches, and how this is, how it's all being, how bad it really is, right?
Right.
And so the bottom line is that, we can't be putting our trust in, these preachers or pastors. I mean, that's not their responsibility. It's everybody's own individual responsibility to do the right thing and to tell the truth and to live that life, and to love God,
Right.
because that's what God stands for. So with that, I just ask the Father in Jesus' name to put a hedge of protection around each and every one of us because the enemy is always attacking, but the Most High will come to our rescue and protect us. And so that's what I ask. And then I ask that what we talk about today will shed some light on some of the stuff and maybe help some people move in the right direction and maybe not be so brainwashed or manipulated by some of these pastors that are just milking them for the money because it's all ending back at the Vatican anyway. So, you know,
Right.
so there we go. With that, I say, let's bring it on.
Right. All right. Let me bring in our co-hostess that does the most. This find her in the quill here. There she is.
Yes. It's been a very long day,
Trying.
not over yet. We had a last minute emergency. I just want to say to CJ Connor, I love you right now.
Yes,
I called him last minute and asked him to come in, but here's a weirdo thing that I'd like to add. So,
Okay.
so Susie said, I was kind of tired, Penny, and I said, we don't have a guest. And she's like, I knew it. I was thinking that in my head.
I already knew.
I already knew. And she said, this
I heard the whole conversation, Penny. While I was getting ready, I was just there and I go, okay, our guest isn't gonna make it. Okay, but I'm kind of tired tonight. I really don't want to have a show without a guest tonight.
Right.
So I already know this is where we're going. And then I'm getting ready, and then I look at my phone and you say the same exact thing. And I'm
Yes.
like, I
So
already knew.
the guest that I was going to bring on is in Spain. And so it is 3 a.m. in the
Oh.
morning, but I sent the invitation and everything. And the reason why I debooked him was because I wasn't getting a response, but that was very concerning because we had an issue with another guest who was not responding, and someone was looking at the texts, and that individual ended up locked up in a crazy house. So I don't know what's going on, but I just want to thank my very good friend CJ Connor. He is let me just give you a little bit of background on him. He's a pastor. He's actually a reverend. He explained to me the difference between pastor and reverend. Reverend is without a flock. He's in Dodge City. And we had a mutual friend who has since passed, and his name was Pastor Mark Powell, who was also in Dodge City in a church that is essentially it's a satanic church. I'm not going to name it, but CJ and Pastor Mark were together, and they were talking about doing this show called The Two Things. And so at one point, Mark really urgently, he felt he wasn't going to be here that much longer, and he wanted to we had a bit of a scuffle towards the end, and then he asked CJ if he wanted to take over. He actually told CJ in a conversation that if anything happens to me, you need to carry on my mission. CJ, his wife passed in 2018 in a car accident after she was looking for another place to live because of the environment that they were essentially still somewhat gang stalked, if you will. And CJ will correct me if I'm wrong on this, regarding the town that he was in and his removal from that church, which was the same satanic church. When they entered that town, on the water tower was a demon, and that is the town mascot. It's the demons. And so CJ is part of our trauma triage team on the Awake Nation, and he also now has a show on the Dark Outpost entitled The Two Things. And the two things are the two things that you don't talk about: religion and politics. So when I called CJ a couple of minutes ago and said, would you be kind enough to come on the show? And he said, yes. I said, what do you want to talk about? You can talk about anything you want. And he hit on the exact same thing that we were talking about today about the pastor. So I knew that this was pretty much divine intervention. So I just want to thank CJ before he even comes on for helping us out here. And, you know, I think I'm sending you much love.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So why are we having an echo? What was that? Anyhow, so you said something about the demon on the water tower. Did you see that they put a dragon on the Empire State Building?
I did not.
The very top.
When did that happen?
Recently, I guess.
Huh.
I was like, are you serious?
Well, it is New York.
Yeah, it's a.
The New York is the town of the demons. You know, that's why they told Trump not to come back. Don't come back here, pal. We will kill you. And that's what they're doing. They're killing him in litigation.
He had a rally in New Jersey. And you know what?
He has a place in New Jersey.
He's always got big rallies. You should have seen that damn place. And half the people from New York were over there.
Mm-hmm. The good people. And there are good people that live in New York, but I really feel for them. I think they need to all escape from New York as soon as possible.
Just don't come to Texas. Please don't come to Texas. Find a different state, because or the good people need to come here, because we've had some that have been here and it has not worked out very well in anybody's favor.
You know, one thing I really like about CJ too is that CJ and Susie have had some long talks, because we were talking about a demon named Emma.
Yeah.
And he was the one that told us that in, I don't know if it's necessarily in Cambodia, but in the Asiatic countries, that there's a demon named Emma that is the guardian of hell. So I think we're going to have a lot to talk about this evening.
Denise, you can come to Texas if you would like and get out of New York. It's okay. We'll take you. So let me bring out Tommy. Well, hi, Tommy.
Hello.
How you doing? Let me get my hat.
Thank you for that.
Don't forget your hat there. How you been?
Been okay. Been kind of a long week. You know, had interesting things develop at work, and that just kind of seemed all too predictable, I guess.
Right.
But strange and kind of disturbing. But I made progress on my house, and looking forward to seeing my son here in about a month and a half. So that's good. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, else, let's bring out CJ. Come on out, meet everybody, CJ. Well, maybe.
Hi, CJ.
Hi, how are you guys doing tonight?
Well,
You're
Good.
A little frazzled, but we're here. We were expecting at least one other co-host, but I guess they couldn't make it either.
Yeah.
Oh, off on a conference again, is he?
No, actually that conference got fired out. There's a fire. And it's for the Disclosure Fest. And I had asked him, he was on the Dark Outpost. We've been having a lot of no-shows for some reason, just oddities, if you will. And we were supposed to have one guest on the Dark Outpost, and that guest, we had our regular who was bringing guests. That guest didn't show. But again, you know, these individuals one is in Australia, another's in Spain. So there is a vast time difference, which we have to compensate for. So, you know, it's hard for some of the individuals.
Well, so CJ, you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
I think Penny said it all.
Did I? I couldn't possibly say it all, CJ.
Good introduction.
Everybody sounds so busy. Lots of work and stuff. You know, this is the time of the year to do it, when the weather starts getting warmer, or the weather is warm, right? But today isn't today the summer solstice, first day of summer?
Oh, is it? Yes, I believe it is.
Yes, and tonight there's a strawberry moon. I don't know. What is a strawberry moon compared
I
to
don't
a
know. I'm
blood
going to look
moon?
it up.
It's a
Oh my
it,
gosh.
it is a full moon.
Yep, it's a full
And it's like
moon,
a
and it's supposed to be
pinkish
closer
color.
to the Earth than
Yeah,
Oh
than it
Lord have
normally
mercy.
would be.
could be why everybody's kind of thrown off.
Turned into a dang strawberry, did it?
Yeah, they have all the blue moon, strawberry moon, blood moon.
Yep.
I
So
don't know.
the
It's
Pink
strawberry,
moons.
the
Yeah.
strawberry moon, wild strawberries that start to ripen during early summer gave name to June's full moon. Other names for this full moon are rose moon, hot moon, so that would be your moon, Susie, um,
Hot moon.
and
Oh,
I'm
no,
mead
Suzanne
moon.
Hot. Yeah.
Right, Suzanne Hot, and mead moon. It says the times vary by time zone. I'm just gonna says the Celtic. Oh, of course it's yours. The Celtic names are horse moon,
Okay.
I'm the horse girl.
Diane moon, rose moon. The other English names are flower moon and planting moon. Other sources quote mead moon as the Anglo-Saxon name because this was the time for mowing the fields or the meadows.
And Susie and I are wearing flowers tonight.
True.
What?
Yep.
I am not getting mowed. I'm sorry. That's not happening. No haircuts like that for me. Sorry.
So, CJ, you have a very, very interesting past and a current life as well. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met your wife and why you were in Cambodia?
I was a missionary for a long time, for many years. There was a period of time where that's all that I did was I was in the mission field. I was in Cambodia, and that's where I met my wife. I had to come back, and I had some other work I had to do back in the States, and went back, and we got married in 2000. So, and from that time, I didn't was in the mission field for a couple more years, and then took a church. To be honest, I went to seminary and graduated, and after that, I just took a church. So
Where did you go to
I had been
seminary?
going to seminary, you know. So part of the stuff that I did in seminary was I went to other countries, and I had one degree or a master's degree in missions, and a degree in divinity. So I'm actually I have a piece of paper that says I have a master of divinity. I guess that makes me divine, right? So
What university were you at?
I went to the Concordia system because I grew up Lutheran. I ended up going to Concordia University in St. Paul and Chicago. I started out in Chicago for 2 years, and the one in St. Paul, it's a network. They had at that time they had like 13 of them. I think they're down to like 7 or something now. But I had gone to Concordia in Chicago where I grew up, and then after a couple of years there, I moved to St. Paul, Minnesota. And
That's like kind of a big jump.
it was 8 hours away, but it is cold in Minnesota.
Right?
It's
Yes.
freezing.
My first boyfriend,
It's cold in
fiance,
Chicago.
was from Minnesota.
From Minnesota. Well,
Yes,
it is cold in
and he
Chicago,
moved to Fort
but
Lauderdale. Not as cold as
Minnesota.
it is in Minnesota.
What's that?
Not as cold as it is in Minnesota.
No,
like
Minnesota is on
Antarctica.
average year round 10 degrees cooler than Chicago. There are some times in the summer where the temperature's, about the same. But Minnesota has maybe one day every summer that's 90 degrees or higher, maybe 3 days, in a summer. Chicago has a lot more. And down where we live now, every day is 90 degrees, by the time you get to the end of May. So we're in Kansas now.
Yeah, you're not in Kansas anymore. What? So you go from seminary, your theological teaching, go around the country. You go to Cambodia. Was that part of your mission? one of your missions?
The Cambodia, you mean? Yes. Uh-huh. Well,
How did you meet your wife there?
well, I met her family here.
Really?
Yeah. So when I was back in the States, where when I was back home, I was living in St. Paul at this time. When I was back home, I worked for a few months at I directed a youth center. I was much younger then. I directed a youth center for it was an outreach program for kids in gangs, was what it was. It really wasn't much of a big deal. I mean, these kids, most of them were Asian. They had Asian gangs, Latino gangs, and some black kids in that neighborhood, the west side of St. Paul, that were in gangs too. But mostly, I worked with the Asian Latino gangs, try to get kids from joining. I mean, these are kids who are 12, 13, 14 years old, right when they would start joining. But, I found that they were really mild and lame compared to where I grew up. They really believed they were gangsters and gangbangers and all of that, and they really weren't. I mean, excuse me. Most of the kids that I saw, or young people that I saw in gangs in Minnesota, they couldn't hack it in Chicago, and the way that the gangs were there. From where I grew up, I had worked in Chicago in Cabrini Green at a program there before I had moved to St. Paul for 2 years really, and right in Cabrini Green, and so coming to St. Paul and seeing these little kids running around pretending I called it pretending that they were in gangs. They took it all very seriously, But that was a very interesting time. I really enjoyed those years, and a lot of those kids, I would not preach to them, but I would share the faith, or I would teach them about Jesus, or talk about the faith and about being a Christian. And while I had them, when I first started in that program, they had 3 kids coming or 4 kids coming a day. By the time that I was finished with my stint there, I was able to build it up to almost 200 kids coming every day.
Wow.
To various different types of programming. A lot of the kids, the Asian kids, have almost all of them. In fact, I can't think of any of them that I remember now that did not become Christians. When they became older, they became serious, hardcore Christians. One of them actually married into our Moni's side of the family, or Moni's sister's husband, married into the Cambodian side of the family. He's a pastor at a Lutheran church now in Minnesota. But so I've had a lot of fun and helped a lot of people and changed a lot of lives. Along the way, I met my wife, who, had the same heart that I did. And we had been married in 2000, and she died in 2018. What would this be, the 24th? We would have been married 24 years. Our anniversary was June 18th. So
oh my God.
Yeah.
When did she die?
She died in November of 2018.
Can you tell us a little bit about the church that you were at? You don't have to name it.
Sure. Yep. The church I was at in Dodge City, Kansas. That church, I'm not even sure where to start. They appear to be very nice people. They seem to really, have a heart for what the church is supposed to be about. Basically, improving your own station, your spiritual station, or your spiritual life, and then making a difference in other people's lives.
Can you tell us, how does one get a church gig? Like, how did you get hired for that position? Tell us how that transpired and what happened when you drove into town.
Well, how do you get a church gig? it's very different now than what it was, and it had become different. It had changed when we came to Dodge City. I think we're going on 9 or 10 years ago when I started there. I was only there for 3 years or so. It was just they were just they just were not Christian. That's all that I could say. I don't even know what other way to put it.
Well, did they advertise for the job? I mean, how'd you get it?
Well, I say, yeah, I see what you're saying. You become known after a while. They did advertise for the position, but I got an email asking me about it, and I replied back to the email. Well, it was funny because a couple nights before I got that email or that request, they wanted they sent me a request. Someone at the church sent me a request to come out and meet them and to preach. And a couple of nights before that, I had this really strange dream about going to a city. And then I drove into the city, and it wasn't a city. And I said to myself, "What? This isn't a city. What am I doing here? I want to go to the city. I don't want to be out in this." And so it was a very interesting dream that I had a couple of nights before. But in lights was the word city. And like these lettering that I associate now with the lettering that they use in this town for the old Wild West and stuff like that. So it was just very interesting.
Dodge City?
Dodge City, yeah.
Right.
So when I got that email, I said, well, I just had this dream. I wasn't really looking for anything at that time. I wasn't really too much interested, but they had sent me that email. And you just have to imagine, God works in various ways, various and wondrous ways. And so you just have to imagine that was something I had to pay attention to and consider. I wouldn't be faithful to my calling or to my own, to my faith.
Yes.
If I didn't consider it. So I did. We considered it. And we came out and drove out, and the town looked exactly what it was in the dream. And I thought,
oh,
God
wow,
must want me here.
Oh my God!
But when I was coming in town, there was a demon on the water tower. It was really something. I wonder if I could show it to you. Hold on. I think I have it here. I mean, it was really something. Let's see if it'll let me. Oh, here it is.
That'd have been like turning around going, nope.
Can you see this at all?
Yes.
Nope.
That is the Dodge City demon. It was on all the water towers. And this thing was just looking down at you.
I have a cousin
really
there.
Yeah, it looks like a really bad Joker. Ew.
My cousin lives out there, and she says that she goes to a church out there. Oh Lord. I wonder why.
Wait a minute. Does she live in Dodge City?
I think so, yes.
Oh Lord.
No way. Your cousin?
that might explain why she thinks the way she does and treats me the way she does.
Is that your cousin that lives? You said your cousin?
Yes.
Wow. Well, this is actually, it's not an imp. What do they call it? It is it's like the Celtic devil. Or
it almost looks like the Underwood Ham Devil.
It's
yes.
It's the version of the opposite of Santa. What do they call that? The
Krampus.
Krampus.
Yes. Satan.
That's
Claus.
what this is.
Well,
and actually, interesting thing about this, the Krampus through history was this imagery of that person or that whatever. The imagery of that had started.
It has the goat lips right underneath the nose.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
The image was created in the Middle Ages as the Krampus was created or introduced in the Middle Ages because it was going to protect you from I hate to say, can I say this on here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Krampus was created to protect people from Jews in the Middle Ages.
What?
There was a time period in Europe in the Middle Ages where Jews were really persecuted in the 1400s going into the 1500s, the 1500s especially. And that's when this whole image was created. That image of the demon that was on the Dodge City Towers is based on that or based on those images from the 1500s. So I think it's all very interesting. It was an interesting town to live in,
Yeah, Susie just sent me something. I'm trying to load it, but I'm trying to save it to my hard drive. It's the Talmadge where she grew up. They're called the Blue Devils.
Yes, yeah, the Blue Devils. Is it an ugly demon too?
Yes, it looks like a goat head.
Yeah.
They all look like goat heads.
I'm
Hey,
trying
Yeah,
to.
that was our
show you what
high
I did
school
with them?
mascot. Was the my mom went to that school. My aunt went to that school. I went to that high school in Talmadge, Ohio. My grandpa built the first house in Talmadge, Ohio, and so the mascot was the Talmadge Blue Devils, and so it was the face of a blue devil.
Well, thank
Yeah.
God mine
Yeah.
was a Trojan man.
Can I show you one more image?
Yes.
Okay, here. Let me pull it up here. Let's pull this one back up. So this is that image here. How do I go back? I don't know.
Yeah,
what
I know. I'm
doing
trying to
with my-
figure out how to load
Okay,
this.
so this
one.
is pretty
You know,
ugly, right?
later.
All right. So I got into it with like the government in the town or something, a few years ago. And so I took this mascot and I made something else out of it and just sent it all over town. Tell me if this if this.
Our
looks
devil had a beard. Yours doesn't have a beard on it,
wow!
right? We know who that looks like.
Who is that?
Obama.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Because they were so daggone like liberal. Like you can't. We have a building in town. It couldn't do anything with it without some mess. They just. I felt like I was in a communist state, and so I started telling them. I bet you voted for Obama, didn't you? Running
Oh my
everybody's
God!
life like
You
this.
didn't.
And then I started passing that out and around, and boy, the whole town blew up. People were so
Did
mad.
that start the? I'm gonna just pull this in 1 second. That's Susie's.
See,
Yeah,
that's
that was
not
our
that
devil.
bad.
Looks like he's got reptilian eyes and a goatee.
He looks kind of like a goat, doesn't he?
Yes, he looks like a goat.
Yeah, but he doesn't look as sinister as ours.
A devil's a
He looks
devil. I
pretty-
don't care how.
yeah.
I don't know.
He's
Yeah,
a-
devil is a
devil's a
devil.
devil
He's
is a
got
devil.
those horns, huh?
I would have changed principles. I'm sorry.
The next town,
What,
No,
Tommy?
Baphomet's brother.
Christopher Lake Canyon.
Wait, Penny.
So when you saw that, and then you did your thing with, I bet you guys voted for Obama. Were you pastor of the church at that time?
I think when I did that, I wasn't the pastor of the church.
Okay.
When I was the pastor of the church, I wasn't political at all.
Right.
I was, I definitely had political opinions and shared them and all of that. And biblical opinions. I mean, there's just some things that we call political opinions that really just are right out of the Bible. I don't know when they became political. But when I did that, I wasn't pastor of the church.
Well, your first clue when you went into town was that demon.
That
Okay.
demon on the tower. Yeah.
And then you become the pastor of this church. When did things start going sideways to you where you're just like,
Well, there were a few things. I mean, once I got there, even when I visited, as you look back, there's some red flags. Even when I visited, for example, the place, they had some spaces in the church were just piled with garbage, up to the ceiling in a couple of
God.
inches. and just stuff like stacked stuff. They had all this stuff stacked on an altar in the fellowship hall. So they had a fellowship hall. Fellowship hall was the old church, and they had an altar. The old altar was still there from the old, before they added on, and they had this thing stacked up like 10 feet up with stuff. And just the maintenance, the care and the maintenance. It's like, as I look back, it's almost as if they just didn't care anymore. You know what I mean? And so there were some little red flags like that. Well, what does that do to a pastor? Oh, I just feel so bad about them. They must have lost their passion, their pride in their church, their passion for what they're doing here. They just must be lost. Someone has to help them. Pastors are sent to help. A lot of my work, in fact, all of my work in congregations or in parishes were in distressed congregations. So
right. I was going to ask you that. When you went in there, did you ask yourself, okay, here's a stupid little story I'm going to throw out. I played this club. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Susie, if you heard that he had a dream about this place before he went there. But I played this club. Yeah. I go to the club. I get the gig from the unknown agent, who I now know who the unknown agent was. It was John. Okay. Mm-hmm. I get this gig. We go down to the club. I step out of the car and I say, this alley smells like death. Okay. Wow. And then I say, this alley smells like death. And then we go inside and there's a little lady with the baseball cap on, and she starts yelling at us. The police come in and they're rousting people in the club. And so she comes, she's like 90. She comes up with a sign in front of the band. And she says, you guys are too loud, right? And I'm like, no, if we were too loud, the cops would come up to us and say, you guys are too loud. But they didn't do that. They were rousing somebody. So this is a question I'm going to put to you. So I say, we need to get out of here. Then they come back again. And I say, what happened to the band before us? Why aren't they here? What happened to the band before us? Mm-hmm. And then the little old lady comes back. The cops come in again. They roused them again. She comes back with a sign dancing around that we're playing too loud. And I'm like, no. So I turn to my husband, who's the guitarist, and I say, we need to leave. Mm-hmm. And the keyboard player, we need to leave now. And the keyboard player was in a band called the Ides of March. They went on to form Survivor and write Eye of the Tiger. And I say the keyboard player, and he's blind, right? I say, hey, we need to get out of here. He's like, yes, we do. He starts packing up his stuff. My husband's like, oh, we're not going to get paid. I said, well, we're not going to get paid anyway. I asked what happened to the band before, and the band member got stabbed in the alleyway.
Right.
Okay. So my question to you.
But you knew. I mean, somehow you knew.
I know. As soon as
like
I
other ways of knowing.
Like that, right? So you had a dream before you went there. So did you ask what happened to the guy before me?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Yeah. I research all of that. One of the problems that you have with Lutherans, but it's with every denomination. One of the problems that you have in churches, in the American church, is that pastors will not tell you what happened. Because congregations can make their future so difficult. Unless a pastor is going to be retiring, he doesn't tell you what really happened. He goes ahead, doesn't matter what they did to him, how they treated him. He usually will move right ahead. He doesn't want to say anything because the next church isn't going to take you. They're going to think that you have issues. They're not going to take you.
And we're going to, and the next hour that's coming up, we got about 20 minutes here, but the next hour that is coming up, we're going to talk about some of those issues, some of the pastors that resigned, and some of the evilness that pervades the church. Now, I was privileged to know the at times volatile Mark Powell, and he had issues with the church. When he was leaving the church, he brought in a movie. Was it Letters to the Church?
Letter to the American Church by Eric. It's based on the book by Eric Metaxas, Letter to the American Church.
So that was a documentary that was done. He knew Eric, and when he was encountering problems, he went on Eric's show. to talk
That's
about
right.
those problems. But he had been essentially attacked after, he said it started when he brought that forth. So I was wondering about the Obama devil. I had to find out the
Yeah.
time.
Oh, sure. Yeah. No, the Obama devil I did way after. No,
Okay.
I was too successful. I'm going to be honest. When I first came to that church, it felt like I was at a wake. You had stuff piled up all over. I would walk into rooms, and it just felt like they were waiting for someone to die.
Or the church had died, because I've walked into dead churches before.
Yeah. And
Now,
it isn't
speaking of
about what
death, I
kind of
wanted to
music
tell
they.
you that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Susie.
Oh, it isn't about what kind of music they
Okay.
play or what the worship is like or how many people are in church on Sunday. But you walk in, or I walked in on my first day starting there as their pastor. I walked in, and it felt like it was really off. It felt like someone had died, but I had already
All right.
decided in my mind that really they lost hope for what they were doing there and what their future was.
Okay, Susie, you're busting to say something.
I know. I'm trying to get it in there. Okay. Speaking of death. Okay. I looked up the meaning of blue devil. It said one theory is that the blue skin is a depiction of rotting human flesh. These demons are an embodiment of death. A different yet also related theory is that the blue color relates to the skin discoloration, which occurs when someone is bit by a deadly poisonous snake, specifically an adder or whatever.
An adder, yeah.
I don't know if you know this, CJ, but Brenda was bitten by a snake.
By a copperhead. But how long ago? Just not even a week ago. Yeah.
Oh, that sounds painful.
That's why we pray when we do the show. We pray for spiritual protection for everyone that is on the show. We've done that for a while, but apparently we needed to do a double prayer before that, because it was the day before we were supposed to do a show, and I'm like, the show must go on. We had a reticent guest, was just like, I don't know if I can come on or not. I've been having these bad dreams. I'm like, really? Because Brenda was bit by a snake and she's on. So.
Oh my goodness, check this out. This is about the blue demon. The mythology on the blue demon says ONI are known for their superhuman strength. They have been associated with powers like thunder and lightning, along with their evil nature, manifesting their propensity for murder and cannibalism. Yeah.
Shite.
That's a blue devil. Yeah.
That's a blue devil.
What's the red devil? What's the significance?
People are going to just eat each other.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're going to devour each other.
So CJ, so you go into this town now. The reason why I ask about, who was there before, that's a question I always ask these days. But Mark had said that there was a pastor before who got framed by the church, thrown in jail. That he was.
That was a different church.
Okay.
That was a different church. Yeah.
Was it in the town?
It was in the town, but that was a different church. Yeah. Now that pastor was helping a lot of people, but I think that he was framed. Their churches. How do I say this? Masons are huge here. The Masons, Freemasons, Scottish Rite, they are huge here, and you almost everybody who's in any position of power or authority is a Mason in this town. Okay.
Wow.
So you have that, but they're also in the churches. And so that pastor was at a church where there were a Mason who was giving him a hard time for really the good work that he was doing. During that time, we see a lot of things before other parts of the nation see it, because this is a corridor for all kinds of trafficking, drug trafficking, human trafficking, name it, and it's here, and it comes through here, and it came through here first before any other place in the country, but that pastor was helping a lot of people, mostly young men who had gotten hooked on some types of drugs.
And they didn't like that.
And the people in the church didn't like that. One thing about Masons is that they are very brutally and cruelly judgmental. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if there's any Masons here, but if you really get to know a Mason and someone who has gone up the ladder,
Yes.
they have no tolerance for the struggles of other people or the failures of other people.
No, and at one of the hierarchies, they refute Jesus Christ.
Right. Yep, that's true. And in fact, they gain their wealth and they gain their promotions in life through taking advantage of the people who are going through difficulty.
So they get Freemason brownie points.
That's right. And it's okay to do it because those people are worthless anyways, because they aren't as moral as the good Mason.
And they buy them
They're not
big houses in Beverly Hills and all that stuff.
Well, and it leads to so much because they really do think, I'm getting into all the Mason stuff, but it leads to so much, like Hollywood, Epstein Island, because they really do think that they are above certain classes and certain numbers and certain aspects of people of certain characteristics, people who have suffered or struggled through certain things. They really think that those people exist in this world to enrich their lives.
I have a question. Why do you think, Susie, why do you guys think that they had demons for the town mascots?
Why do you think? I think because they serve the devils. I mean, how else can you get fame and fortune? Unless you call in the dark forces.
Mhm.
I think it's the choice of that's a fierce like icon. The reason they choose it, it's like like other schools, like you talk about the Spartans or different animal kind of totems. It's very totemic in the way that schools have these mascots, and the kind of the town rallies around that as almost like its own little clan, and because it's frightening to the other teams, the opposing.
Tommy, by the way, CJ, touchdown
Through
Tommy.
that.
He was the football star at Virginia Tech.
Oh yeah. You told me. I've seen you on here before too, on the show. Yeah.
So now let's move a little bit forward, give them a little bit of a taste of what we're going to talk about in the next hour. Susie, do you want to say a little bit about what you talked about today? Because we're going to get into the pastors in the next hour.
Yeah, I spoke a little bit about Todd Bentley and the origins of the IHOP churches out of Kansas. Basically went back all the way to, it started with a guy named Davis, who was the Grand Wizard for the KKK, and he was best friends with William Brenham. William Brenham was visited by the angel Emma, and William Brenham church was that like Jim Jones was good friends with him, and then that was an assassination of Jim Jones because he preached to black people, and so these people were KKK members. William Brenham was really these people were all homosexual, these pastors, and then and so then you have Todd Bentley, who's homosexual, and then
Susie, are they homosexual or are they just deviants?
Well, they like men and women, children and men.
Bisexual. You know. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of words I could use, but we're not going to use them. You know,
I would say
let's
they
say a
were
bundle of sticks.
bisexual,
And
CJ, and
if the
deviant.
guests want to look up what the meaning of a bundle of sticks is, that's what they are.
Thank you, Susie.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, yeah, Todd Bentley, you know, he had numerous affairs with the choir boys, and I went to the revival in Lakeland back in 2008, and it went on for like 3 months. He was under Rick Joyner. Rick Joyner, who is head of Malta, which is a Knights Templar who works for the Vatican. His name is Joyner because he joins all the charismatic Baptist denominations to the Catholic Church. So you have Copeland, you have Benny Hinn, you have all these guys that are, you know, I'm going to say, made a deal with the dark side, okay? And part of that deal is that homosexuality, like T.D. Jakes. I've been to his church many times. I've been to Joel Osteen's church. I've been around a lot of these pastors. They you know, they don't get there unless they make a deal, okay? They get fame, they get fortune, and you know, and I mean, yeah, Billy Graham's another one, okay? We have plenty of friends that have testified about different things, as well as many people have come out and spoke out about the, you know, devious things. Like Pat Robertson wanted Tom Outhouse to be his boyfriend, and you know, they stole his script for The Matrix, and you know, he ran 700 Club. So,
Right.
you know, I mean, there is so much darkness within these big mega churches, and all these Christians are going there thinking that they need a mediator between them and God, and you don't need a mediator between you and God. That is the biggest lie that the church has ever told anybody. You know, you can go directly to God, and you should go directly to God. You shouldn't be trusting everybody, because that's not your walk and your relationship. You should have your own personal relationship with God, and you should know how to talk to God. You should know how to listen to God, and you know, and this is the problem. And a lot of people are waking up, but there are people that are still serving these fallen pastors. You know, they're still going and they're still listening to their message. And like Todd Bentley, you know, he brags about kicking a woman in the face because he wasn't getting any healings, and he was to kick her in the face with his combat boots during the church service. Another time where he jumps on a man and he's choking him, you know, to get the devil out, choking him, and then he knocks the guy's tooth out. I mean, and this is and you watch hundreds. There was like 400,000 people that showed up for this revival, and they're cheering him on, and so and these people are shaking and like they've been bit by a rattlesnake, and
I do not care how
convulsing,
bad.
and all saying this in the name of God, and it's
Yeah,
not God, it's devils.
I don't care how
You know.
bad I would want God or need God. I would not let somebody physically abuse me for that purpose. There is no devil in anybody that has to be knocked out with a tooth or kicked in the face.
That's
People
kind of
need to
weak,
realize
isn't it?
that.
Very
Don't you
weak.
think that's kind of weak?
Very.
Yeah, for the people, those guys that have to do that and knocking people over, and you know, this Todd Bentley stuff. I see another guy, Todd White, with the pretending to lengthen people's legs. He's just pulling the shoe out a little bit. You know, he's pulling the shoe out a little bit. I mean, all of that is kind of just shows that they're weak. I mean, the Bible says that the disciples could go out and all they just had to speak the word and it would happen, right? These guys have to roll around and wrestle people down and jump up and down. And
I actually think, CJ, on some of the things that I watched with Copeland and Hagen, that I watched this thing, it was called Holy Laughter. I'm like, no, that's like unholy laughter. And this thing creeped me out because there's a new Ghostbusters movie out. And in Ghostbusters, one of the neighbors goes to Dana and invites her to his house. He's an accountant. And then this demon dog shows up. So he says, who invited the dog? And it's a demon dog that is chasing him. And and then he turns himself, gets possessed by one of these demons. You know, we're talking about right now on this planet right now. I believe that we have a release of demons like Ghostbusters that is unfathomable and has not been seen. It's an epic overflow of demons attacking Christians, and many of them are coming from the church.
Mhm.
I think they use that as a form of control. It's another way they think they can control people. You know, beat them up. God's coming into you. Devils need to be out. Demons need to be out. I need to smack the hell out of you.
No, I don't think
You
so.
know, Brenda, when these individual men or women, they feel like they need fame and they want fortune, okay, they call upon the forces of darkness, which is these demons, and then the demons grant them these things, but there's always a price to pay. So they always have to, like, according to magic, you have to give up the thing your heart loves the most. So for dark magic, so whatever they love in their heart the most, that's what has to be sacrificed. Okay. But in return, they get what they want. Now they agree to sell their soul, and they all have different terms. Maybe they got 7 years or 20 years are going to be wealthy. And then now you see a lot of these pastors, what I call walk-ins. You have possession, and then you have walk-ins. A walk-in takes the soul that's been sold to him. He takes over the body, like Kenneth Copeland. I believe he is now a full-on demon. There is no more Kenneth Copeland in that body.
I do too. And the one thing I wanted to say was in the Holy Laughter video, in a precursor to that, I see a guy sitting in the front row. He jumps from the front row, seated, right? He jumps and he lands on the pulpit like a dog, like that dog in the Ghostbusters, right? He looks around and then he runs off stage. And I'm like, what in the actual himiny jiminy just happened? And, and then you've got from the word. So it's got to be demons like Hagen. Ha is a Hebrew word that also means like Satan. Ha, Hagen, a jinn is a demon. And they're speaking to people. They're not even touching them at this point. They're simply walking through the crowds of thousands speaking, and these people are shaking and rolling around on the floor. And they're saying it's holy laughter. It's not. I'm saying it's holy possession. Unholy possession.
Bentley talked. Huh?
Hang on real quick. Tommy, did you have something you wanted to say? You were unmuted.
Yeah, I've said for years that the devil is oftentimes in the pulpit. Not everywhere, but especially on televangelists and the mega churches and some small churches too, because it is a form of control. And when it's like Rome, that Caesar realized that they couldn't manage physically the kingdom of Rome, especially the far reaches. It was just too difficult to administrate from a central spot. But if they could control the leaders or the kings of those nations, then they control the nations. And so that's where the Vatican came from.
Right.
Yes, they have sees all over the world. We have 1 minute before we go to break. So,
Susie, go ahead with real quick what you were going to say.
Okay, what I was going to say, Todd Bentley one time said that he was going to get a visitation by fire, from God, the holy fire. And so he goes to this hotel with his members, and this fire appears. Well, he ends up burning down the hotel. Okay. Like, that's real holy.
How holy is that?
Right? All right, everybody, we're going to take a 5-minute break.
5-minute break. We'll be back.
5 minutes. Yep. Everybody, hang tight. We'll be back.
Get some coffee. shagalaga, boom shagalaga. And both touchdown Tommy, there he is. And CJ's still getting some coffee. There he is.
Hey, no.
So CJ. So now you and Susie had a great show. This is her third show for today. And she built like a house or something in the interim. After she finished her second show, she went out and built a house and then came in the shower, and here she is for the third show.
Built a house. She is Susie.
Let it never be said she's not industrious.
Yeah. Did you feed the horses and the cows too, Susie?
I did. I fed horses too.
You do know after the show she's going to fall over like a bowling pin.
Me too. and I didn't build a house. So and again, CJ, I want to thank you very much for coming on the show, especially such last minute, because that the guest never contacted me, so I don't know what's going on with that individual. Hopefully he's okay and not locked up in a crazy house somewhere.
I know. I hope everything is okay.
We invited the last one on gets locked up. If this one is too, then we're gonna have
then we know that there's an issue with
there was a blue devil, attacking, or a red devil or something.
Messages
so now when I asked you about coming on, you said, Penny, I want to talk about these things. So let's talk about those pastors, those two pastors, and
Morris
specifically.
Morris, oh boy, what a horrible story that is. Here I have this because Susie's been talking about this too, right?
Yes, she talked about it today.
Yeah.
Because my friend Pam, she came over today. She came to see me today. She knows Morris, or knows him, and her friends know Morris. And she said one time he was good friends. He would come to Texarkana all the time from Dallas, and he was good friends with a pawn shop owner. And then one time they saw him and another young man going in a hotel room together, and she said he's very gay. And so there's a lot of that in these. It seems to be that is the theme. And I talked about Once Upon a Time in that show where it talks about why they call them donkeys or asses when they go to the Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island is about the anal sex. Okay, that's why they're asses. And that's the reference that they're using why these boys are called donkeys. And so it seems to be that's a big theme amongst a lot of these people, that make these deal with the devil. So go ahead.
Do you want to read that? Robert Morris has resigned as senior pastor. You want to read that?
Sure. Robert Morris has resigned as senior pastor at Gateway Church in South Lake, Texas, 3 days after confessing to engaging in sexual behavior with a child over the course of a few years in the 1980s. The Board of Elders at Gateway made the announcement Tuesday in a statement to NBC News. The elders' prior understanding was that Morris's extramarital relationship, which he had discussed many times throughout his ministry, was with a young lady and not abuse of a 12-year-old child. The church leaders said in their statement, noting that they had not known the victim's age or the length of the alleged abuse. Even though it occurred many years before Gateway was established, as leaders of the church, we regret that we did not have the information that we now have. The megachurch also announced it had hired the law firm of Haynes and Boone to conduct an independent review. But here's this gentleman. Now, in some respects, this happened a long time ago, but it wasn't until last week that it actually came out that this was a 12-year-old. This was not a young lady. And back in the 80s, churches, bishops, Catholic, didn't matter, Catholic or Protestant, they were sweeping this stuff under the rug. So they have some young man, this guy, he's 20 years old, 20-something. Was he 23 or 27? They never want to mention that. They just say he was a young man in his 20s. Well, 20 years old and 29 years old is a huge difference, but not much of a difference when you're talking about a 12-year-old. And so that's why they were flubbing this language. This was a young lady for all of these years. Well, that young lady came out and spoke out about it. I wonder if there's information in here. I had
Okay,
read.
so Morris was a former member of President Donald Trump's Spiritual Advisory Committee. He had a long told a story to his congregation and church leaders about a moral failure involving a sexual sin when he was a young minister in his 20s. Now, apparently, no one knew about this, so President Trump has since separated from this individual.
I don't believe that. I
You don't-
believe, look, Pam and everybody else knew about it up here. It was pretty well known. So to say that they didn't know, I don't buy that. They knew. They knew.
Well, it seems to me like this guy was hiding in plain sight, and he did some things to be able to do that. And in fact, I think some of these scandals coming out about these pastors are coming out now because there's probably something a lot worse. This is how they're getting ahead of something that is a lot worse, unimaginably worse, is by fessing up to some of these things. That's what I think personally. What did this guy do that after all of these years since the 80s, he's confessing to messing around with a 12-year-old girl?
Right,
when he
an
was in
old
his
crime.
20s?
Susie, what did Pam say?
About, well, like I said, they knew him personally, and they knew that he was homosexual and that he was not right, So, the people knew about it up here. So,
Right.
That could be what
to
they're
say
trying to
that
cover
people
up.
didn't know,
Yeah.
it's just kind of like a lot of people know, but it's like finally maybe people are listening. Maybe they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to.
Yes.
People go along. We'll go back to Micah's story. That whole church knows exactly that guy was doing what he's doing, and still, what do you call that? Well, there's that syndrome where, Stockholm syndrome or whatever.
Yes.
Everybody just looks the other way, and that's kind of what's happening.
Mm.
People know. People
this
aren't
young
that
lady-
stupid.
I mean, it's like our
Cindy
government.
Sure.
Our government's been doing stupid crap for so long. And what were we doing? We were saying, oh man, I hate them. But that's as far as it went. Everybody just took their heads and let them run off and do what they wanted to instead of stomping your fingers on them the first time.
Same in the
Still,
church.
that's the way it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah, even now, even with everything that we know, even now, I mean, some of the bills that just been passed the last couple of weeks in Congress,
Right.
after everything that Republicans know, it's something wrong with human nature, or it's what the Bible calls a delusion. There's a delusion that fell over the land.
There's a
that's
spell
prophesied
over
in,
the
in
land.
Revelation. A great delusion has come upon them. We are a deluded nation, a deluded people. A lot of these things start in the church, and how the nation responds to these kinds of things mirrors.
I think
how it's responded
spell
to
is a
in the
good
church.
word.
What's that?
Penny,
The nation,
I think
nation
spell is a good word. I
spelled.
think a lot of people have been spelled,
Spell.
and they're complacent. They don't say anything. They don't want to ruffle the water or stir anything up. People are afraid to say anything,
I mean, we were talking a little bit about Paula White Kane, who is married to Jonathan Kane from Journey. And she was on stage, and Jonathan Kane came out and said that women should watch pornography with their husbands. And then she did a thing in open church where she's like feigning to be Mary Magdalene and using her hair to wipe her husband's feet and then sucking his toes on stage. Can you tell me what that has to do at all?
I think that women
Jesus.
and men, when they are married, they should keep everything to themselves and keep it in the bedroom. You don't put it in church.
Yeah,
Why
but
would
these
you do
people
that
who-
in church, CJ, in front of
These
children?
people who are in these churches and become elevated and have such a strong power over even the members of congregations, whether they're pastors or regular members. There is a demonic power behind it. They're doing these
Yes, that's what
things
Susie's
because they
saying.
can. It is about mind control. It's the same thing that the government did with what the government did to us with COVID, preparing for whatever they're going to do next. Let's see if we can get these fools to stand 6 feet apart, because standing 6 feet apart is really going to make a big difference. Or wearing toilet paper for masks,
Yes,
because
well,
that's really going to stop
the
you from
6
getting
feet
sick.
apart, CJ, is for what you need for identification with like a not digital ID, but they can identify you. They can look at you and identify you, AI identification,
Mhm.
but you have to be 6 feet apart.
Right.
They can
I
do
heard that. I heard that.
resonant frequency. Then you need that much space apart for to pick up your brain print, basically your resonant frequency. Each person is unique to them, like a fingerprint.
And that's where we get the whole safety in numbers.
But you do have these people that are not working for God. They're working for Satan. They're able to get into high places and to get around important people, even around good people. And they feed off the good character and good reputation of some people, so that they are able to get the foothold, where they're at, and expand and spread their influence that way. When you see them pushing the envelope, like this Paula White Cain, when you see them pushing the envelope like this, that's a very scary thing. You know that person is not of God. They're not there doing God's work.
She's doing malfeasance. She's breaking churches. She's been married 2 or 3 times. Not that that is a bad thing. The circumstances under which some of those things occurred. At one point, she was praying that all the demonic babies get aborted. And
that the babies that are aborted are the bad ones.
Right. So pray for all the demonic babies to get aborted. She was literally speaking in that wasn't speaking in tongues. I think she was literally speaking demonic spells.
Mm-hmm.
That's my take on it.
I don't know. So
her
these
church
churches
was in
don't really know them.
Her church was in Lakeland, Florida.
Go ahead.
And her and her husband were caught in a very financial scandal. So they ended up having to divorce. And then she moved to New York. And then she started having an affair with Benny Hinn. And then Benny Hinn took her to the Vatican to meet the Pope. And while they were there, they were caught going into a hotel room together. And then he, I guess, divorced his wife. And then he remarried his wife. It's so scandalous. These people are. And it's like a big giant club.
Who?
Huh?
Wasn't that Ravi Zacharias, or was that Benny Hinn? That was Benny Hinn that was caught.
Benny Hinn.
With Paula White, yeah.
I always got him confused with is it Benny Hill? Dip, 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 dip.
Benny Hinn was TBN's biggest,
I never watched televangelists. I never watched any of the televangelists. It's like, the day before Trump chose her to be his spiritual advisor, she came on my DM on Twitter, and I speak with a little bit of an accent when I speak of her, but I'm like, and who are you? And she says, well, I'm a mega pastor from Florida. And I say, really? And so then I go down all the pastors that I knew that are evil. And I said, well, you tell them all. Penny L.A. Shepherd said, hi. Is that why you're contacting me? And don't be asking me for any seed money to pray for me for Jesus, because I can talk to Jesus just fine, Missy. And then then she asked me for some money. And I said, you know what? I used a bad word, and I told her to F on down to Buffalo, shuffle down to Buffalo, and don't ever contact me again. And I blocked her. The next day, Trump picked her as a spiritual advisor. And I was like, wow. And I also asked at the time, because I was homeless, and I asked, does David Jeremiah, my pastor, who is a Freemason, and I got baptized under an Illuminati eye, and they said, don't be talking about prophets because there aren't any prophets anymore, because I said I had dreams that came true. And they said they weren't going to baptize me unless I agreed. And my husband at the time, my boyfriend at the time, became my husband. He's like, wow, you looked really scared up there. I've never seen you scared before. Because I probably thought I was going to like burn in the fires of the bubbly water, when this guy's trying to baptize me, because he says that there are no, there are no prophets anymore. And if I say that there are, he's not going to baptize me. I mean, what is that?
There's a whole way of thinking among some of the churches that says that all of those gifts have ceased, that there's no prophets.
There are.
Yeah.
Even the children will prophesy.
Yeah, it does. The Bible says it.
So all of my friends have dreams that come true. So what are you saying, buddy? That we should ignore the voice of God? That there is no voice of God? That's what you're saying.
Hey, Penny. Skip just texted me about the Pleasure Island in Walt Disney. And what I got to say about that is I met the vice president of Walt Disney when I was down in Orlando back in 1982. And that was Michael Laney. And
he's in jail.
Michael Laney is in prison right now for molesting a 3 or 7-year-old, I guess it was. And he was vice president of Walt Disney. Now, when we were there, my ex-husband was at the bar, and he hired or tried to hire my ex-husband to murder a girl because he was in love with the boy, and he couldn't get rid of the girl. So he wanted the boy for himself and wanted to get rid of this girl. So he offered my ex-husband $10,000. And so my husband comes back with this girl to our room, and he says, hey, we're gonna rescue this girl. We're going to go tell them that we took care of her, and we'll go get the money for her, and we'll give her the money, and then she can get out of here. Well, we tried to go do that. We went over to the room, and we hid the girl. The henchman came in the room and said, I saw the girl in their room. That they didn't do anything. And he picked up his gun and started chasing us, and I took off running. And
this is a Betty Hill.
Yeah, this guy's like 6 foot something, he's a big old monster. Michael Laney is big old dude, and he's chasing us with his gun, and I dodge between the cars, and then he goes back to his room. Well, we go back and tell the girl, hey, you almost got us killed. You better get out of here. We're out of here, because we went back to Texas. And I'm like, I needless to say, not taking my kids to Walt Disney. Okay, not going to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere. Everywhere.
So what are your particular thoughts, CJ, about the condition of the church and the church leaders? Who was the second person?
Oh, Tony Evans.
Yeah, another one. Another one bites the dust. And another one
resigned after nearly 50 years over a mysterious sin. He wasn't he a former football player?
Tony Evans?
Nothing mysterious about that.
Yeah, you know what the mysterious sin was? He probably slept with a boy. He was probably raping little boys.
Boy toys.
Mysterious as it may be.
They all went to Walt Disney to Donkey Island.
his son did a sermon this Sunday, and I don't know his son's name, but his son anyways did a sermon this Sunday basically talking about his father's comeback. And so
really?
in one sense of it, the father is saying, I've resigned. I'm done after 50 years. I'm done because I have a sin in my life. One of the things that I want to say about these guys who are resigning, well, it's about time, it's about time because they're pastors and they should have known better. Morris should have known better when he was in his 20s. He should have quit then. Who who polices or who monitors or who follows after and watches after the pastors? The elders, the churches. They just like Todd Bentley that will just leave one church and go to another, start it again. It is the individual themselves. And so, you know, a true man of God, I think, you know that a man is godly when he resigns. That's when you know that maybe he does know God a little bit.
Right.
Too late.
He
Too
did not
late
say,
for
he didn't say why, say CJ. He didn't say why.
Tony Evans hasn't, and that
No.
hasn't been leaked either. Robert Morris was trying to get ahead of a story, but what the actual truth was had been leaked, and then he resigned, and then after he resigned, then it came out. You know, the whole public found out.
Right, but
But
there's more to that story, CJ, because you know, there's eyewitness testimony that he was with little boys. So what about
yes,
Tony Evans? You know, what is coming out
I
about the church?
looked.
Nothing.
I
So
don't
now
know what Tony Evans
I also
did.
want to direct both of you, which Susie, this goes to you. It goes to Joyner. It goes to Bentley, who are in South Carolina. What is going on in South Carolina? What's going on there? Because we have a pastor right now who's flip-flopping all over the place. His wife, you know, Micah Miller, allegedly kills herself. Coercive control is what there's a new law that's going to be put on the books about the Micah Miller law, which is already enacted in several other states. But for some reason in South Carolina, the coercive control law was not enacted in South Carolina. What is going on with these pastors? Because now we have this one individual pastor who's flipping everything around and saying now that he didn't stalk his ex-wife. His ex-wife stalked him, that she was schizophrenic when he is actually been a diagnosed schizophrenic on 900 milligrams of lithium, and then trying to get his wife on these. So we have this flip-flop. But my question is, do they learn this in some kind of a business school for coercive control? And I mentioned this because I started doing a compilation, which I'm going to be writing on, about the churches and the entertainment industry and Lou Taylor. Now, Lou Taylor, there's a whole article on Lou Taylor. I don't know if I sent it to you or not, but if I haven't, I will, about coercive control, because she is married to a pastor in a church in Brentwood, Tennessee. And she's now under investigation and named in the P. Diddy lawsuit. And then that also ties to the Kardashians. And it also ties to what Susie had been talking about with the church that was started by the KKK, but the Kardashians are involved with that as well. Why do they have Kanye in their family? And then Kanye starts a church, which is literally like a freaking church of Satan, in which he's inviting Justin Bieber, but not just Justin Bieber, but Marilyn Manson. And he's charging. He's charging. And he also opened his album at the Oculus about Jesus is King, which for Kanye, Jesus isn't king, cash is king to Kanye. And he opens it also at Joel Osteen's, in this creepy dramatic thing in the shape of an eye, an Illuminati eye, at Joel Osteen's church. What is going on with our churches?
And Joel Osteen goes right along with it.
Oh yeah, he went to a Lady Gaga concert. People were I got so fed up with everyone saying Kanye's Christian. You know, Megan Walsh's baby daddy, I think his name is Warren Trotter, is Kanye West, she says, his lover. And she said they wanted her to be Kim Kardashian's best friend, but she didn't want to do that. That's not who she is. So, you know, they're all starting churches, and there's an entire agenda of MK Ultra mind control and compliance, and then you're tithing to this church, giving them your finances, and 10%, which they're going out and buying jets. JP but had, I don't know if it was donated, but now has to his retinue a plane in which he can fly wherever he wants to. Which that's scary, because did he take a plane and land it somewhere to or did he? There are now allegations that he actually, it was murder for hire. Are these things that we'll never be able to trace? We're never going to find out. Are we ever going to find out, what Evans did? And my final question is, why are there no repercussions for these men like Bentley, who is out there? Is it because he got consent, or is he raping and coercing and manipulating people and having sex with them? Why are these pastors not in jail? Because a normal person would be, and why is there no repercussions for them?
Well,
Penny, they're all working together. I mean, okay, so Rick Joyner is the one that is keeping Bentley in the ministry. Okay,
Mhm.
Rick Joyner
South Carolina.
purchased Jim Baker's facility over there in North Carolina. When Baker got arrested for all that stuff, so he bought that and he started Morning Star Ministries. Okay, so and then you got Bob Jones, the prophet, who made women strip naked in his office, and so he could prophesy to them. I mean,
But there are no prophets in the church anymore, right?
Well, listen, I think that the horrible behavior you're seeing from that Susie's describing, that you're seeing from a lot of these pastors, there's two things. First, Tony Evans, 74 years old. How many years ago did this happen? He was old enough. If it happened 10 years ago, he was old enough to know that he should have resigned then. I mean, pastors have a responsibility, and I'm not sure why they aren't resigning. How do you present and put yourself forward to be the spiritual advisor to the President of the United States without being transparent that the sin of your past, this is Robert Morris, was a 12-year-old girl? So you have these guys, for whatever reason, they are not holding themselves accountable because they don't believe that they have to. A lot of times they think that God gave this to them and they own it,
CJ, I think they're still engaged. That was one incident. You think that incident that stopped? I don't believe when he got into a position of power that ever stopped. He was abusing more and more individuals. It's just one instance in which he got caught.
Well, but they're resigning now. I believe a lot of these guys, and these are just two of the latest, greatest scandals. It has been going gangbusters over the last.
TD Jakes is a pretty big one too right now.
Year or two. TD Jakes is a major one.
Yeah, TD Jakes has the alliance again with P. Diddy.
P. Diddy. Yeah.
And so we're also seeing, we saw two people got arrested for DUIs. One is Travis Scott within the Kardashian family at one point, but his manager is Lou Taylor. And and I said, I think it's Operation, Operation P. Diddy did it. Okay. And then the other person was Justin Timberlake. Justin Timberlake was arrested in New York, I believe in the Hamptons, for a DUI. But these are not arbitrary things. They're watching for these people. They're bringing them in. And I think the reason that they're bringing them in is because even if they don't tell what they know, they're going to think that they did. The people on their team, because there's going to be a hit made to these people to silence them because they know everything.
Another thing is, think about this for, these big mega churches is a great way to launder money because they don't have to make they don't have to report anything. Okay. So good place to launder money, dirty money.
Yes. Through the cash, right? Through the cash that they're giving.
There are ways to launder money in churches.
Yeah.
I'm sure some churches, well, Joel Osteen had a few $100,000 in the wall of his bathroom. They
right. What was that?
Pocket change.
Just pocket change. Susie, tell CJ about how that church was, the woman that you came to know that was kidnapped, the financial foundation of that church.
Okay, so there's a story about a woman that went to Osteen's church, and she wrote a book. And it was something like electrocuted and died or something. I can't remember the name of the book, but she was an heiress, a very wealthy heiress that went to John Olstein's church before, back in the day when it was real small. And she ended up getting kidnapped. Well, she ended up getting tricked. She had one of the church people took care of her books, and they literally took all her money. Okay, they bankrupted her, took all her money, and then they had her go to this abandoned hospital. When they pulled her in there, they literally kidnapped her, put her on a table, and they had a doctor there that electrocuted her and then wrote a death certificate. But she didn't die. So, or she did die, but I mean, her hair literally like, you know, she got electrocuted. And she came back. She met with Jesus, said she wanted to come back. She came back. She managed to escape from that place. And then they locked her up in the crazy house after she got out. You know, it was quite a story, but this lady, she's passed away since. But it was right after that that the church there became extremely wealthy. Just saying, you know,
Wow.
surely there can't be any connection. You know what I mean? You know, but you know, she lost all her money.
And you know, the other thing when we were talking, Touchdown Tommy, we were talking about the frequencies. I think that again, we talked about the unholy laughter and the frequency that they're using or emitting from their mouths, which is, I think, a demonic frequency. But I think the televangelists are doing it too. They're also using neuro-linguistic programming language to hypnotize a broader spectrum through the airwaves, through the air, the spoken word. And then I think, and this is one of the things they do in the entertainment industry, is they actually summon demons. For instance, to the individual who played the Joker, who actually ended up dying afterwards. He gets the demons in him, and then he acts the part. It was one of the most chilling performances ever. And that was the Dark Knight, in which there was an individual who went in and shot up an entire theater for the premiere of that movie. And so now you have an audience, a broad stroked audience listening to the demons speaking to you through that character. And that's disseminated throughout the world in the film industry for anybody that is not saved under the auspices of Jesus Christ to be able to actually be possessed.
But Tommy,
that was James Holmes that shot up the theater. He was a neurology student, master's student in Colorado, and he had been programmed, heavily gang stalk programmed. So that's it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna look it up real quick.
That programming is accidental. You know, was he known? Was Holmes known previously to the FBI?
I think he was targeted. Yeah, I mean the FBI does a lot of the targeting.
Yes.
Yeah, through the fusion centers, along with the Homeland Security, and you talked about the Masons earlier. They do a lot of the boots on the ground, local. What do you call it? Extrajudicial punishment. Actually, one of my neighbors, who's a Mason and former Hell's Angel and a pastor, was tipping me off on the sabotage they were doing to my vehicles and my like generator and some different things, motors. That way I wouldn't have to spend so much time troubleshooting. I could just work on trying to get it fixed. But I mean, he was letting me know that I'm on a slow kill list.
Yes, I think I was on a slow kill too. On July 20th, 2012, a mass shooting occurred inside a Century 16 movie theater in Aurora, Colorado, United States, during a midnight screening of the film The Dark Knight Rises. Dressed in tactical clothing, 24-year-old James Egan Holmes set off tear gas grenades and shot into the audience with multiple firearms. 12 people were killed, 70 others were injured, and 58 of them from gunfire. I'm going to say that is, that's a demon that's doing this. Was he triggered from statements that were made or from, he'd already planned it. But I'm saying, the dark, why that particular movie? Why did he go to that movie and kill the people in that theater? Was there a particular, and that was a premiere of it, so he hadn't seen it before. Maybe he saw a trailer of it, something. MK Ultra, this guy, where he geared up to go and kill. It was one of the deadliest shootings by a lone perpetrator in the history of Colorado, the state's second deadliest mass shooting since after the 1999 Columbine High School massacre. I did my master's degree in school shootings. That was my thesis. But I did not know at the time about MK Ultra. Now I have a different perspective.
Exactly. I ended up writing a 27-page paper following the Virginia Tech shootings, and tried to publish those and send them out to press across the country. And somebody got to the Kinko's clerk before we could pick them up, and they shredded them. And the guy actually he was trying to convince me that I hadn't spoken to him the day before for 20 minutes.
Right, this didn't happen.
Yeah, we found him shredded in the dumpster. The third anniversary of the Tech shootings. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I don't know what we can do other than what we are doing right now, having shows like this, talking about these things. CJ, you're off. Your mic is off.
Penny, I sent you the name of that book on the heiress.
CJ, your mic is off.
It's on now.
Okay.
I don't know why it was on.
Okay, so you found it on eBay? The name of the book was Murdered Heiress, Kidnapped, Tortured, Murdered, Yet She Lives Today, Murdered Heiress by Dr. Patty Wagner.
Wow.
Which Wagner is a German name. It's actually Wagner.
Wagner, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, are churches built on lies?
Well, when they sell, it depends on the individual, Penny. You know, there are good people out there that have
Like CJ.
a good heart for God, right? But then you have these other people that are wanting fame, but they can't get it from God, or they want fortune and they can't get it from God, or they're impatient, so they make a deal with the dark side. You know, so that's the problem that you have, is being patient, or those people are impatient and they want it now, and they want something instead of accepting what they need. It's a want, and then that's when they start going, you know, they're not happy with a little 25 or 50 member church or something that they might be teaching. You know, they want a mega church, they want mega money, they want to live that life, you know, they want to drive those cars and
and go to Lady Gaga concerts like Osteen.
Where in the early church or the New Testament, you know, in Jesus' times, where could you have a mega church? Where could a mega church meet back then?
The Vatican was a mega church.
the
Where?
Vatican.
The Vatican was a
Vatican.
mega church because it had
Mega church.
the Holy Seas, where, you know, and it's amazing
Well,
because that's
but
the
the
name,
Vatican
right?
wasn't built until the Middle Ages.
Oh, you're saying
I
way
guess you
before
could say
that?
the Pistis Sophia, the Haggai Sophia in Turkey, or in Constantinople, but now it's Istanbul. It's still standing, 1,500-year-old church. You know, that was one of the wonders of the world. You know, that church.
Do you know who any of the pastors are from that church?
Constantine's 1, 2, 3, and it was Constantine 11 that died when Memnet took over the city, and you know.
You mean
11.
Constantine's were the pastors there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
What about earlier than that?
Well, I mean, I think the land actually belonged to the Muslim people, and then the Byzantine Empire took it for 1,000 years, and then in 32, Memnet took back the country and the city, and changed it from Constantinople back over to Istanbul, Turkey now. So. But yeah, well, it was Justinian and Theodora that built the Temple of Sophia, or the Holy Spirit Church is what they call it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't have that religious foundation that Susie has. I just know that the Holy See has
Well, that's
what
what
they
they
call C's, and I think the C's, the CU, the I, and they've been spying on people throughout
it's
their
called
with their
Haggai
Holy
Sophia.
Yeah,
Well,
I
Holy
don't. I don't
Spirit,
think that.
power,
I
Holy
don't
Spirit.
think that mega churches are normal or natural. I
Right.
don't think that these big churches are normal or natural. I don't think that the celebrity pastor is normal or natural.
I don't think celebrities are normal.
There, there are historic churches all over the world. Nobody can name who the pastors have been.
Right.
And,
Yes.
you know,
You're saying these are celebrity pastors.
these are celebrity
that's the point.
pastors the whole world knows. Why are they being shoved down our throats? Why are they getting all the TV time? It's because they are actually changing through their behavior, through their teaching, through the things that they push, through the things that they tolerate. They are actually changing the heart of Christianity. They're changing what the actual teaching is.
Yes.
This is why they're mega church pastors. This is why they're allowed to be elevated into those positions. And and of course, that's why people flock to those churches. You know, they want to go to Joel Osteen's church. You know, be happy. You can be everything that you want to be. You know,
Yes.
well, I mean, that's not real life, is it? I mean, there are all kinds of things that I'm not going to be able to be. What about the guy that lost his leg? You know, is he going to be? Is he going to be the next runner for the Olympic team because he wants to? I mean, some of the things that they are preaching and teaching,
Brenda,
people love to hear. You know,
Brenda's laughing because she only has one leg. She's
She only
you
has
only have
one
one leg.
yes.
Oh my God! And if I got to get up and run, I sure will. Might be funny to watch, but
Right. I don't blame you. But there is no historical um, evidence that the church was ever meant to be a mega church. Even Jesus said, "Wherever two or three of you are gathered, two or three."
Yeah.
hey,
That's how he spoke about the church.
Jesus
You know?
prayed wherever he was. There was
He prayed.
no need to be inside of a building congregating.
Well, and
Wherever he
people
was.
gathered together
Yes.
anytime, anywhere. I'm not against having a service or getting together on the weekend with a group of folks, or I'm not against having a building either. I think that people who are believers should gather together just like we're gathered here right now
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay. But throughout Christian history, you don't see this idea of a megachurch. You see Jesus feed the 5,000. How often does that happen? You saw Peter preach to 1,000 or something like that. You have very limited instances throughout history. It's not an every Sunday, everyday thing the way it is now.
And many of these churches, CJ, are terms and conditions to belong to that congregation. You know, many of them say you have to believe what we believe, or you have to give 10% of what you make, or you cannot have a membership in our church.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
conditional. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's like that in the smaller churches too. They just don't. Their list of beliefs are a little bit different. J.P. Miller's church has. One of the things at his church, I read this somewhere, but one of the things at his church was that you can't go against the pastor. There was another pastor who had, I can't remember his name. Maybe you guys remember his name. There was a men's conference a couple of months ago, and there was a guy climbing up and down a stripper pole or something. And it was a men's conference, and this pastor called it out.
Oh, right. I remember that. I don't
Whatever
know the
his
name.
name
Yes.
is. I mean, he has rules. He was wonderful for calling that out, but he has
I think that
rules
was
in
T.D.
his
Jakes' church, wasn't it? Yeah, it was T.D. Jakes.
No, that wasn't T.D. Jakes' church.
It was at a
I think.
conference.
It was at a
Oh, well,
men's
there was
conference.
that happened in a T.D. Jakes deal too.
Well, I'm not surprised by that.
Yeah.
T.D. Jakes. But these celebrities here, let me show you something. This is what the celebrity pastors. Are you guys familiar with Kirk Franklin?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Let me see if this works. I mean, this is what passes for American Christianity right now. This is what passes for it. Here's Kirk Franklin. If it'll pop up anywhere. Did it pop up?
Yes.
Jesus, hallelujah, yeah. Look, they're twerking on stage. What is that? That is a woman.
Club work. That's twerking.
Do you see this? I mean, this is what they are putting forward as what Christianity, what the ideal Christian and ideal Christianity should be. And this is what it should look like. This is what they're packaging. This is what they're teaching kids to look at and believe.
Oh my God.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know how to stop.
Pick up
the
Redwoods?
How do I do
Okay,
this?
hold on a
Sorry.
sec, let me just- Okay, we gotta.
Yeah.
I was pushing all kinds of buttons. I didn't know which one I was pushing. Brent wants to know if anybody knows who the pastor was at the Crystal Cathedral.
Now,
Oh.
Robert Schuller.
That's right.
Yeah, he had a statue of
I
the
know-
naked
I know that
people out in front of his
because-
church. Yeah.
I wrote
naked-
a
yeah.
letter to my brother when I found out that he was behind the scenes for the bankruptcy of the Crystal Cathedral Church.
Yeah.
And so I wrote to him and said, "Hey, John, when did you become a realtor?" I didn't get a response to that email.
Hey, that's good money in that one.
I went to that church with Darrell, and
Oh,
then
Lord.
I found out that the name of my drummer's wife, because they moved to Costa Mesa. I think he moved there kind of to keep an eye on me after I left Darrell. And her last name, I believe, was Schuler, which I thought was very odd. She went to Fountain Valley High School, so I'm like, was she part of the actual Schuler family? And it's a very close knit association. And I had no idea that my former agent was my brother until I started researching him. And he lived in Brea, which is not very far from there. And then also our Secretary of State under Trump, Pompeo, who was head of the CIA, graduated from Fountain Valley Los Amigos High School. They probably came and saw some of my gigs when I was in Costa Mesa. We have about 8 minutes.
Oh,
He did tell one fascinating thing, though, when he was talking about the Chinese dissidents. And I thought he introduced two of them at the Nixon Library when he was there. And I thought, oh, he's probably going over to John's to have lunch. He said, well, here's the two Chinese dissidents. And I got it a little bit wrong. He said Mr. Wong and Mr. Wei, as in Wong Wei.
Wait.
But he actually said Mr. Wang. But I thought he said, so it's Wang Wei, not Wong Wei. We have about 7 minutes. CJ, can you tell us a little bit about Heart of a Prophet and where people can find it and how people can get in touch with you?
Oh, sure. You can get in touch with me by email. It's chrisconnor333@gmail.com. Connor, it has an ER at the end. chrisconnor333@gmail.com. And then the book, The Heart of the Prophet, you can find that on Amazon. It's also in Audible form. I don't know. The narration is okay. They run it a little slow, but you can speed it up in the app. But you can, so you can get the book Audible. Or
What is Heart of the Prophet about?
Heart of the Prophet takes a look at what a biblical prophet is and compares it to the people who say that they're prophets today. And part of the concern is that the reason why I wrote the book is one of my biggest concerns right now is that everybody and their mama is a prophet.
Your mama.
The stuff that they're prophesying is just insane. I think that God
Very
is
demonic, right?
It is, and I think that God has prophets, or He will send prophets when we need them. I think that there are probably a couple prophets here and there today, but you don't know half of the prophets, the names of them that are in the Bible. The prophets that we have today, everybody seems to know their name. Oh, that's prophet so-and-so and sister such and such, prophet is such and such. And so we're kind of in trouble. I think that the American church, especially, is so lost. They're in trouble, and it makes me sad when I think about it. But the Heart of the Prophet is a book about what a real prophet is, and why what we think a prophet is today just doesn't stand muster. You can't
I think there are thousands of people that are receiving the word from God. They're being told things. Those who love Jesus Christ, I think he talks to you and he tells you things. He's told me things that have saved my keister for whatever my special mission is. And I don't like that word prophet. I just say, hey, talk to God, because he's going to tell you stuff. And
Right.
maybe it's not for the entirety of the nation. You're going to try to figure it out, because sometimes he tells you things and you don't figure it out for the next 10 years. You're like, oh, that's what you were talking about. Or like you said, you had a dream about that place before you went into it. So, I mean, what technically is the definition of prophets? And I always tell people, being a prophet, a real prophet, is not actually profitable.
No, it's not.
Well, it's said that God puts it within each man to know who he is. So all you have to do is look within yourself and reach out with your heart and your mind and your soul and connect with God. It's really very simple, but everybody wants to make it very complex. It's not.
And I think the other thing about prophets is that in the Bible, they deliver judgment so much. They warn the people of the horrible things that were going to happen to them if they didn't straighten up and fly right. The people knew the law of God was written on their hearts. They had the writings and the scriptures and all the teachings. They just didn't follow them. The prophets came along to say, hey, you have not been following this for a long time. Now you're doing some really crazy stuff. Guess what's going to happen to you?
Right.
You're going to be eating your own vomit. Your women are all going to shave their heads.
Yes.
Your men are going to pierce their noses.
Which all those things have happened.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, all those things have happened. Horrible things, famine, destruction, devastation. What are the prophets today? Oh, the Lord tells me you're going to get a new Toyota.
They want a profit financially. That's what a profit today
Praise
is.
the Lord. Send in your seed money and he will give you a Toyota. Hallelujah.
And then all profit.
It's not
All
Toyotas
profit.
anymore. It's Tesla.
And then I'll profit.
Right. He'll
And
give
then
you a
these
new
people
Tesla.
say, oh, he's a real prophet of God. He's a real prophet of God.
Yeah,
I'm
because he's
thinking,
Yeah, got all
profiting
your
off
money.
of his prophecy. He's making.
You got all your money. That's how he became a prophet.
We have
they're
about
probably
2 more-
AstroTurf too. All
we
those
have about-
people.
We have about 2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Touchdown Tommy, how can people help you and how can people find you?
Well, they can pray for me. And
We will do that, Tommy, because we love you, Tommy.
got a Cash App, cash tag Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong, capital D, capital G. Rest is
Dr.
legend.
Gonzo Bing Bong.
Dr. Gonzo Bing Bong. Yeah, just something silly. I thought would be easy to remember. They can find me on like Instagram, social media, Facebook, Instagram, Touchdown Tommy Edwards, YouTube's Tommy Edwards 7062, and here, of course here, and
Of course, here.
and X, my X account is I'm locked out of it. The main one. I've got a couple of backups, but I'm locked out of one of those too.
Okay.
Just to make a new one. X is really good at that. Lockout.
And Susie, where
Tommy
can
always
people
puts
find
us.
you?
I was gonna say, Tommy, you always put us in a good mood. You're
I know.
just so funny.
I try.
Susie, where can people find you?
Wake Nation, Dark Outpost, Facebook, Suzanne Hott, and here on Friday and Saturday night.
And
that?
you can find me, Penny Lee Shepherd. I'm the executive producer for Beyond the Box. You can find us on Beyond the Box every Friday and Saturday from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, from 10 p.m. to 12 midnight Eastern. You can also find me on the Awake Nation Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. to 12 noon Eastern. And you can find us on the Dark Outpost at darkoutpost.tv. And you can join for $30 a year. And you'll see wonderful people like CJ Connor, the two things. That's his segment. Then you can also find Susie Q on there, and her last name is Hot. And her segment is Hot Shots.
And you can't find me there, but you can find me at a place called Loom's Massage Parlor. I'll be laying on the bed in the third room and getting a massage because that's probably what I need about now. One of these days. Ow, right in the kisser. Everybody, it has been great. Thank you again, CJ, for coming on.
Thank you,
Tommy.
CJ, so much.
I know Tommy and
Thank you.
Susie and Penny are tired, but I really love their ambition. I'm just confused, so I stay in that state of confusion. It's all right. I like it. So we will be back tomorrow night. We have two wonderful ladies coming on with us tomorrow night. Shh. It's our secret, Penny. And and like always, everybody, please be kind to one another, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.
Love y'all.
Yes, definitely.
Goodbye for now from Beyond the Box. Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box. Please join us again for Beyond the Box, Friday and Saturday evenings from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern. Join us for more intel bombs with our extraordinary guests.
Break it down.
Inside, outside, upside, downside, beyond the box.
Break it down.
Good night, Putin. Good night, Tucker Carlson.